Hallo zusammen. I'm Dave from Definitely German, and today you're gonna learn how Germans say don't beat around the bush. Let's go. You know, sometimes certain expressions and sayings are really similar in different languages, even to the point that it's basically a word-per-word translation. But in this case, the German equivalents that come to my mind don't really have anything to do with beating and or bushes. Let's first talk about the English phrase and what it actually means. Trivia fact, by the way, the first time that I ever heard this expression was in the Bloodhound Gang song Foxtrot Uniform Charlie Kilo. And ever since that song came out, I think in 2005 or so, this expression really got stuck in my head, and I always enjoyed the thought of, you know, two people chasing each other around the bush without really ever catching each other. When I say to someone, don't beat around the bush, I'm expecting the person to really get to the point, to not avoid giving an answer and to avoid the elephant in the room. Quite the opposite, to express that and, you know, to be frank, to be open about it. There actually is a supposedly even older form of this phrase, which goes to beat the bushes for something, meaning to actively search for something, for clues or information, but don't beat around the bush for that matter. That is way more common these days. As with quite a few English phrases, there isn't just one German equivalent that everyone uses. However, in this case, there is one that is really idiomatic and really common, I'd say, which is den heißen Brei herumreden. And then there's also the negative version of it that you would say to someone else. Red nicht den heißen Brei herum. Don't talk about the hot porridge. For der Brei, which is usually uncountable, the porridge. Also containing the German diphthong I. It's spelled E-I, so you would expect something like Brei, but that's wrong. In this case, this diphthong is spelled differently compared to how it's pronounced. So you have to say Brei, which is really typical for this vowel combination that creates a distinct combined sound, if you will. Herum is around, and then there's also reden, to talk. And since we're talking about the German language, which loves to work with compound words, words that are combined, mixed, merged together, we can also do this here. We could use herumreden, to talk around something. So it could also work like that. An alternate and also quite common German phrase would be nicht zum Punkt kommen, to not get to the point. Respectively, in terms of, you know, addressing someone with that, Komm, endlich zum Punkt. Get to the point already. For kommen, to get or to come. Endlich, finally, which is expressing the emotional aspect of this phrase. Zum, which is a German contraction, a contracted preposition in this case, consisting of zu, to, and dem in dative, the article dem, zum. And of course, der Punkt, singular, die Punkte, plural, the point or dot. The example. Ja, also ehrlich gesagt, Mann, jetzt red nicht den heißen Brei herum. The origin. Before talking about the origin of the German equivalent of this phrase, let's first talk about why the heck people wanna beat bushes. So, according to the American Heritage Dictionary of Idioms from 1997, the overall imagery alludes to hunting in medieval times when beaters were hired to flush birds out of bushes in order to reach them more easily. If you don't do that and you rather, you know, go around the bush with your wooden stick and you try to catch a bird like that, it doesn't really work, you know. You know that they are in there, but you don't dare to hunt them, which, you know, personally speaking, I guess is a good thing if you don't do that, but still, you get the point, right? The German phrase den heißen Brei herumreden, to talk around the hot porridge, is exactly that basically. It's the idea of there is like a hot thing or a hot topic in this case. You know you have to swallow it, you have to deal with it, you have to tackle it, but you feel like it's too hot to do that. in one way or another. That is your excuse for not doing it. Den heißen Brei herumreden. To not really talk about the hot topic in question. Another interesting and also quite cute origin story of this German phrase with the porridge is, let's take a cat. Die Katze, singular. Die Katzen, plural. And when you serve cats a hot meal, they go look for the coldest spot, and that spot is where they will most likely start eating. But at the end of the day, what both the English form and the German form have in common is that they share a certain element of emotional and or physical pain being attached to it, if you will. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this little discovery tour, so to speak, in terms of don't beat around the bush and the German equivalent den heißen Brei herumreden, or the negative form nicht, not den heißen Brei herumreden. Thank you very much for watching, much appreciated as always. And with that being said, definitely see you next time. Tschüss und bis zum nächsten Mal.